You've probably said this without thinking. That dog is just like its owner. And here's the interesting part. You might be right. Dogs don't just learn commands, they pick up patterns. Your consistency, your energy, the way you react to the world. Over time, some of that shows up in them. Not perfectly, but enough to reveal more about you than you might expect. No fluff, let's get to the first behavior. Your dog follows you everywhere. You wake up, shuffle into the kitchen, half asleep, and there they are, like a tiny furry shadow. You head to the bathroom, audience of one. Sit on the couch, seat already taken, or at least emotionally reserved. At some point, you just accept it. Personal space is now a shared concept. You call it loyalty, and honestly, you're not wrong. Dogs don't stick that close to just anyone. They stay near people who feel like home, safe, predictable, comforting. That kind of attachment doesn't happen by accident. It's built over time, through small, consistent moments, feeding them, talking to them, being there even when you're tired or distracted. To your dog, you're not just the owner, you're the center of stability, the one constant in a world that, for them, can be confusing and unpredictable. So they follow, not because they have to, but because being near you makes everything feel easier. And here's where it gets interesting. If your dog follows you everywhere, it often says something about you too. You're likely the kind of person who shows up, not just physically, but emotionally. When someone needs you, you're there. When you commit, you don't disappear halfway through. You build trust the slow, reliable way. People notice that, even if they don't say it out loud. The hidden strength? You're dependable in a world where consistency is rare. You bring a sense of security that people don't forget. Being around you feels steady, grounded, safe, and that's more powerful than charisma or charm. It's what builds real, lasting relationships, the kind that don't fall apart at the first sign of stress. You're also someone who creates strong emotional connections, not surface-level interactions, but bonds that actually mean something. You invest, you care, and when you're in someone's life, they feel it. That's why your dog sticks to you like glue. And honestly, a lot of people probably would too if they allowed themselves. But there's a flip side. The hidden cost: when you're always the safe place, it can get intense. Sometimes people, and yes, dogs, rely on your presence so much that it leaves very little room to breathe. It's like being everyone's emotional Wi-Fi, always connected, rarely offline. And if you're not careful, you might forget that you're allowed to step back sometimes, to have space, to not be needed every second of the day. Because even the most dependable person needs a moment to just exist without being followed, even if that's just a peaceful trip to the kitchen alone. Your dog gets anxious when you leave. You reach for your keys, and suddenly it's a full emotional scene. Your dog freezes, then starts pacing, eyes locked on you like they're trying to decode your next move. Are you leaving? For how long? Is this a quick trip or one of those mysterious disappearances that feel like forever in dog time? You didn't even open the door yet, and somehow they already know. That reaction has a name: separation anxiety. And yes, it can come from different places. Some dogs are naturally more sensitive. Others had early experiences that made them more alert to absence. But in many everyday cases, there's something more subtle going on. It's not about neglect, not even close. It's about inconsistency. Some days you're fully present, phone down, attention on, playing, talking, engaging. You're there, really there. Other days, life happens, work piles up, your mind is somewhere else. You're physically in the room, but mentally 5 tabs open and buffering. And dogs, they're pattern experts. They don't analyze, they feel the rhythm, the shifts, the unpredictability. So when connection becomes something they can't quite predict, they try to hold on to it tighter. That's why the moment you leave feels so big to them. It's not just you're gone, it's I don't know when that safe, connected version of you is coming back. And that uncertainty, that's what creates the anxiety. Now here's the part most people miss. What stands out about you is the quality of your presence. When you give attention, it's not superficial. You're fully engaged, emotionally available, and genuinely involved. You don't just check in, you connect. In a world of divided attention and constant distraction, that's rare. People feel it when they're around you. Conversations go deeper. Moments feel more real. You have the ability to make someone feel like they actually matter, not just for a second, but in a lasting way. Your dog experiences that same intensity. To them, your attention isn't just nice, it's everything. It's safety, comfort, and emotional grounding all at once. That kind of presence builds strong bonds, the kind that don't break easily, the kind that people remember. But there's another side to it. When your availability shifts a lot, even if unintentionally, it can create a sense of unpredictability for those who rely on you. Because when something feels that good, that attentive, that connected, it becomes something others start to depend on. And if they're not sure when it's coming back, they hold on tighter when it's there and struggle more when it disappears. It's like having the best playlist ever, but it only plays randomly. When it's on, it's amazing. When it stops, the silence feels louder than it should. Without realizing it, you might be reinforcing the idea that connection only exists in those intense moments instead of something steady and consistent. And over time, that can create reliance, not just in dogs, but in people too. That doesn't take away from your strength. If anything, it highlights it. Your presence has impact, real impact. Now, it's just about making that impact a little more predictable, so others don't just feel connected when you're there, but also secure when you're not. Your dog is extremely obedient. You say sit, and it happens instantly. No hesitation, no side eye, no let me think about it, just clean execution. Stay, locked in. Wait, your dog turns into a living statue. Honestly, if they blink, it feels optional. At some point, you start wondering if you trained a dog or installed software. It's impressive, and let's be honest, a little addictive. There's something deeply satisfying about giving a command and seeing it followed perfectly. No chaos, no guessing, just precision. But that level of obedience isn't random. It comes from repetition, clear communication, consistency over time. You didn't just teach commands, you made them predictable. Same cues, same expectations, same follow-through. No mixed signals, no sometimes yes, sometimes no. And for dogs, that's everything. Clarity removes stress. Structure creates confidence. When they know exactly what's expected, they don't have to second-guess anything. They just respond. Now, let's zoom out for a second. If your dog operates like this, chances are you do too. You probably value order, not necessarily perfection, but efficiency. You like when things have a system, when actions lead to clear results. You communicate in a direct way. People don't have to decode what you mean. And when you say you're going to do something, you actually do it, no disappearing act halfway through. That kind of mindset is powerful, because while most people rely on bursts of motivation, you rely on structure. And structure doesn't wake up tired or distracted, it just works. That's where your advantage lives. You're someone who gets things done, even when it's not exciting. You build routines that carry you forward when others stall. Over time, that creates momentum, and momentum is hard to compete with. People trust you with responsibility because you don't drop the ball. You create stability in environments that would otherwise feel chaotic. And just like your dog, people around you feel more secure when things are clear and consistent. You also have a natural ability to turn complexity into something manageable. Break it down, organize it, execute. That's a skill a lot of people wish they had. Your dog didn't become perfect by accident. They adapted to the structure you created. Now, here's where things can get a bit tricky. When you're used to systems working, unpredictability can feel like a glitch in the matrix. Life doesn't always follow commands. People don't always respond logically. Plans fail, timelines shift, and sometimes things just don't make sense. In those moments, the same mindset that gives you control can make it harder to adjust. It's not about being inflexible, it's just that your brain is wired for order, and chaos doesn't exactly ask for permission before showing up. And unlike your dog, life won't always sit when you tell it to. That's the contrast. Your strength is in creating structure, but real-world situations often require a bit of improvisation too, a willingness to adapt when the plan falls apart. Because in the end, true control isn't about making everything behave perfectly. It's about knowing how to move forward when it doesn't. Your dog ignores commands. You say sit. Nothing. You say it again, maybe with a slightly firmer tone.
Still nothing. Then, after a few seconds, or when your dog feels like it, okay, now they sit, like it was their idea all along. It's not defiance in a dramatic, rebellious sense. It's more like selective cooperation. Your dog hears you, understands you, just doesn't see the urgency. And here's the key point. This usually has nothing to do with intelligence. Your dog isn't bad or stubborn, they've simply learned a different pattern. Dogs are experts at reading consistency. If a command sometimes matters and other times doesn't, it slowly becomes optional. If sit leads to a reward today, gets ignored tomorrow, and turns into okay, fine, whatever the next day, your dog adapts. Not by resisting, but by waiting, testing, deciding. From their perspective, they're not being difficult, they're just working with the flexibility they've been given. Now here's where it gets interesting. This kind of dynamic often reflects something subtle about you. You're likely easygoing, flexible, not the type to micromanage every situation or control every outcome. You don't feel the need to dominate the environment just to prove a point. And honestly, that's refreshing. People tend to relax around you. There's no pressure to perform perfectly, no constant correction, no feeling of walking on eggshells. You give others space to be themselves, flaws included. That's a rare quality, because a lot of people operate with rigid expectations, constant judgment, or the need to control everything. You don't. You let things breathe. That creates comfort. Friends, coworkers, even strangers, they feel at ease in your presence. Conversations flow more naturally. People open up faster. There's a sense of, I don't have to be perfect here. And that kind of environment builds genuine connection. You're also adaptable. You can go with the flow when plans change, when things don't go exactly as expected. That flexibility makes you resilient in a different way, less rigid, more fluid. Your dog reflects that same energy. No pressure, no strict enforcement, just a relaxed atmosphere where rules feel more like suggestions. And sometimes, that's exactly what makes life more enjoyable. Now here's the part that can sneak up on you. When boundaries aren't clearly reinforced, others start filling in the gaps themselves. Not in a malicious way, just naturally. Your dog begins to decide when sit applies, when come is optional, when listening is negotiable. And people, they can do the same thing. Without consistent lines, expectations become blurry. What's okay today might not be okay tomorrow, and that uncertainty shifts the balance. It's like playing a game where the rules keep changing. Eventually, everyone just starts making their own version of them. That doesn't mean you need to become strict or controlling, not at all. It just means that a little clarity can go a long way. Because your natural strength is creating comfort, making people feel relaxed, accepted, and free to be themselves. Add just a bit of consistency to that, and you get the best of both worlds. A space where people feel safe and still know where the line is.
Your dog barks at everything. A sound outside? Bark. A shadow moves? Bark. Someone walks past your door? Definitely bark. And sometimes nothing happens at all, and still, bark. You pause for a second like, what are we reacting to now? The air? Living with a dog like this can feel like having a built-in alarm system that never takes a day off. Hyper-aware, always scanning, ready to announce something at any moment. Now, part of this is completely normal. Some dogs are just more vocal by nature. Breed, personality, even energy levels. They all play a role. But when it becomes constant, when every little thing triggers a reaction, there's usually something deeper going on. Dogs don't just respond to what's happening around them, they also tune into the emotional atmosphere. And not the obvious kind of stress, not the big, dramatic moments. It's the subtle stuff, that low background tension, the slight restlessness, the sense that something might happen even when nothing is actually happening. Dogs pick up on that. They don't think about it, they feel it. So if your dog is always on edge, reacting to every little shift, it can sometimes reflect the environment they're living in, an environment that feels
Alert. Not unsafe, just never fully relaxed. Now, here's where things flip in your favor. You're likely someone with a high level of awareness. You notice details other people completely miss. Small changes in tone, subtle shifts in behavior, the kind of things most people only realize after something has already happened. You're reading the room without even trying. That's a powerful skill. In conversations, you pick up on what's not being said. In situations, you sense when something feels off before it becomes obvious. That awareness helps you navigate life with a kind of quiet precision. You are less likely to be caught off guard, less likely to walk blindly into bad situations. It's like having an internal radar system, always scanning, always processing. And in the right moments, that gives you a serious advantage. You can anticipate problems early, adjust quickly, stay one step ahead when things start shifting. Your dog mirrors that same energy, constantly tuned in, reacting fast, staying alert. And while it can be loud, it's also a sign of sensitivity and perception. But here's the trade-off. When that level of alertness never turns off, it becomes exhausting. For your dog, it means reacting to things that aren't actually threats, always on duty, even when there's nothing to protect against. And for you, it can feel similar. Always thinking, always noticing, always scanning for what could go wrong, what might change, what needs attention. It's hard to fully relax when your mind is still running in the background. Even in quiet moments, there's a part of you that stays switched on. Over time, that constant state of readiness can drain energy without you even realizing it. Because awareness is powerful, but only when it has an off switch. Your strength is in noticing what others overlook. The balance comes from knowing when it's safe to stop scanning and just exist in the moment without waiting for the next bark-worthy event.
Your dog loves leaning on you. No barking, no dramatic entrance, no look at me energy, just leaning. Out of nowhere, your dog walks over and gently presses their body against your leg, not asking for anything, not trying to get your attention, just staying there, like you're a wall that happens to be very comforting. At first, it feels random. Then you realize they do this a lot. While you're standing in the kitchen, brushing your teeth, checking your phone, suddenly there's a quiet, steady weight next to you. No noise, no urgency, just presence. Dogs don't do that with everyone. Leaning is a sign of trust. It's something they do when they feel safe, grounded, and completely at ease. There's no need to demand attention because they already feel secure just being close to you. It's their way of saying, "This is where I can relax." And that says a lot about you. If your dog leans on you often, your presence likely has a calming effect, not just on them, but on people too. You're not the loudest person in the room, not the one trying to control everything or fill every silence, but there's something about you that steadies the environment. When things get chaotic, you don't add to the noise, you soften it. You bring things back to center without even trying. That's rare, because most people try to create calm by forcing it, giving advice, fixing problems, talking things through. You don't always need to do that. Sometimes just being there is enough. That's your strength. You have a natural ability to regulate emotional space. People feel less tense around you. Conversations slow down. Energy settles. Even silence feels comfortable instead of awkward. You're the person others gravitate toward when they need a break from the noise. Not because you solve everything, but because you make things feel manageable again. That kind of presence builds deep trust. It's not flashy, it's not loud, but it's powerful. And your dog feels it constantly. That's why they lean, not for attention, but for grounding. You create a space where nothing needs to be proven, explained, or fixed right away. And in a world that's always rushing, reacting, and overstimulated, that's incredibly valuable. Now, there's a quieter side to this. When you're the one who stabilizes everything, it's easy to become the anchor for others, the person people rely on when they feel overwhelmed, the one who listens, supports, absorbs. And over time, that can start to feel heavy. Not because you don't care, but because you're always the one holding steady, rarely the one being held.
It's like being everyone's emotional reset button, but never pressing reset for yourself. Your dog leans on you because you're solid, but even solid things need support sometimes. Strength isn't just about being the one others rely on.
It's also about knowing when to lean back. Small dog that only barks at big dogs. Most of the time, your dog is adorable, calm, friendly, minding their own business like a tiny, well-adjusted citizen. Then a big dog shows up, and suddenly, chaos. Barking, jumping, full energy. It's like your dog just switched personalities in 2 seconds. You're standing there thinking, where did this come from? Because 5 minutes ago, they were the definition of chill. Now they're acting like they're about to challenge a creature 3 times their size to a duel. From the outside, it can look like confidence. Bold, fearless, not backing down. But more often than not, it's something a little more complex. It's a mix of insecurity and overcompensation. Your dog isn't reacting because they feel powerful. They're reacting because something about that situation feels bigger, unfamiliar, or slightly intimidating. And instead of stepping back, they step forward, loudly. Now here's the interesting part. That same pattern shows up in people too. On the surface, you might come across as calm, easygoing, even low-key. You're not constantly trying to prove anything in everyday situations. You're comfortable being yourself. But when something bigger appears, a bigger challenge, a higher stakes situation, something that feels slightly out of your league, something shifts. You lean in, you push forward, you take it on even if part of you feels unsure. Not because you're reckless, but because there's a drive inside you that doesn't like backing down. And that's where your strength lives. You're willing to face things that feel bigger than you. While others hesitate, overthink, or avoid, you step into the situation. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not with total confidence, but you show up anyway. That's huge, because growth doesn't come from staying in safe, predictable spaces. It comes from stepping into challenges that stretch you, and you're naturally wired to do that. You don't wait until you feel ready. You engage first and figure things out along the way. That takes courage, even if it doesn't always feel like it. Your dog barking at bigger dogs is, in a strange way, a reflection of that same instinct. Move toward the challenge, not away from it. And in the right situations, that mindset can take you far. It pushes you into opportunities others might miss. It helps you build resilience. It teaches you how to handle pressure by actually experiencing it. Over time, what once felt too big starts to feel normal. That's how growth happens, not in comfort, but in those slightly uncomfortable moments where you decide to show up anyway. Now, there's a nuance here. Not every situation that looks like a challenge is one you need to engage with. Sometimes reacting isn't strength, it's just habit. Your dog doesn't stop to evaluate whether the bigger dog is a real threat. It just reacts to the feeling of something bigger. And people can do the same. Jumping into situations just to prove something, to yourself or others, can drain energy fast. Not every moment requires a response. Not every big thing needs to be confronted head-on. There's power in choosing your battles, because real confidence isn't just about stepping forward. It's also about knowing when to stay calm, even when something bigger is right in front of you. Your dog constantly seeks attention. A paw on your leg, a nose under your arm, a gentle nudge, that turns into a more insistent nudge. You're trying to work, scroll, eat, exist, and your dog is like, "Excuse me, I believe you forgot about me for the last 12 seconds. It's constant, persistent, almost impressive. They don't just wait for attention, they go after it. And somehow, it usually works. You cut them, you talk to them, you react. Maybe not every time, but often enough. And that's all it takes. Because dogs are simple in one very powerful way. They repeat what gets results. If pawing leads to attention, even occasionally, it becomes a strategy. Not a bad behavior, just a learned one. From their perspective, it's logical. This works, I'll do it again. Now, let's shift the lens a bit. This pattern often reflects something about you too.
You're likely someone who responds quickly to emotional signals. When someone needs something, even subtly, you pick up on it. A change in tone, a look, a small shift in behavior, you notice. And more importantly, you respond. You don't ignore people. You don't brush things off. If someone reaches out, you meet them halfway, sometimes even more than halfway. That's a powerful trait because a lot of people miss those signals. They're distracted, busy, or just not paying attention. But you're tuned in. People feel that. They feel heard around you, acknowledged, understood. In conversations, you don't just wait for your turn to speak. You actually listen, you react, you engage. You make the other person feel like they matter in that moment. And that creates strong connections, real ones. You're the kind of person people open up to faster, not because you ask a million questions, but because your presence signals it's safe to be seen here. That's your advantage. You create emotional visibility for others. In a world where many feel overlooked or ignored, you give attention freely, and that makes a lasting impact. Your dog reflects that perfectly. They've learned that reaching out to you works because you respond with care, not indifference. Now, there's a subtle trade-off in all of this. When attention always follows attention-seeking, it can unintentionally reinforce the behavior. Your dog learns, if I keep asking, I'll get it. And people, they can learn similar patterns, not consciously, not in a manipulative way, just naturally. If someone knows you'll always respond immediately, always be available, always engage, they may start relying on that more than developing their own independence. It's not about doing anything wrong, it's just the natural outcome of being highly responsive. Over time, the dynamic can shift from connection to dependency. Your dog interacts because it works. People might do the same, emotionally, conversationally, even subtly, because they know you'll be there. That doesn't take away from your strength. If anything, it highlights how impactful your attention is. The key is balance, because your ability to make people feel seen is rare, but it becomes even more powerful when it encourages growth, not just reliance.
Your dog is afraid of everything. A new sound? Freeze. A new person? Step back. A chair slightly out of place? Suspicious. Very suspicious. Your dog moves through the world like it might suddenly change the rules without warning. Even small things feel like they need to be evaluated first, carefully, slowly. You've probably caught yourself saying, "It's okay, it's literally just a bag." But for your dog, it's not just a bag. It's something unfamiliar, and unfamiliar means pause. Fearful behavior like this can come from different sources. Sometimes it's genetic. Some dogs are simply more sensitive by nature. Other times, it's linked to early experiences, how much they were exposed to new environments, people, and situations when they were younger. And then there's the environment. When the world feels unpredictable, where things change suddenly without clear patterns, dogs learn to stay on guard. On the other side, when everything is overly controlled, with little room to explore freely, they can also become hesitant, because anything outside that controlled space feels unknown. Different paths, same result. Caution. Now, here's where it connects to you. If your dog is highly cautious, it can reflect a similar relationship with uncertainty. You're not reckless. You don't jump into things blindly. When something is new, your instinct isn't to rush, it's to observe first, understand the situation, assess the risks. And that's not a flaw. It's a strength. You're thoughtful in your decisions. You don't just follow impulses or trends without thinking them through. You consider consequences. You weigh options. That kind of mindset protects you. It helps you avoid unnecessary mistakes, keeps you from walking into situations that look good on the surface, but don't hold up under pressure. While others might act quickly and deal with the consequences later, you take a more measured approach. And in many cases, that saves time, energy, and stress in the long run. You're also more aware of subtle risks. The small details that others overlook, you catch them early.
That gives you the ability to prepare, adapt, and move forward with more clarity. Your dog reflects that same energy, careful, observant, tuned into the unknown. And in the right balance, that kind of awareness is incredibly valuable. But there's a quiet downside that can come with it. When caution becomes the default response to everything unfamiliar, it starts to shrink the range of experiences you're willing to engage with. Not because you can't handle them, but because your mind flags them as uncertain before giving them a chance. Your dog hesitates at things that aren't actually dangerous, and sometimes people do the same. Opportunities, new environments, different paths, they can feel bigger or riskier than they really are, simply because they're unknown. Over time, that can create a pattern of staying within what feels safe, even when there's more available just outside that zone. It's not about becoming reckless or ignoring your instincts. Those instincts are valuable for a reason. It's about recognizing that not every unknown is a threat, because your strength is in thinking before acting. The next step is knowing when it's safe to move forward, even if it feels unfamiliar. Your dog only eats when you're nearby. The food is in the bowl, fresh, ready, but your dog just waits. You walk away, nothing happens. You come back, stand nearby, suddenly eating begins, like a switch just flipped. It's almost like your presence is part of the recipe. No you, no meal. At first, it might seem like a quirky habit, maybe even a little cute. Aw, they just like eating with me. And sometimes that's exactly what it is. Routine, a pattern your dog got used to over time. But in other cases, there's something deeper underneath. For some dogs, eating isn't just about hunger, it's about safety. In the wild, being vulnerable, like lowering your head to eat, requires a certain level of trust in the environment. If something feels off even slightly, the instinct is to wait. And for your dog, you are that signal. Your presence tells them, it's okay now. It creates a sense of calm that allows them to do something as basic as eat without hesitation. That's not random. That's emotional reliance. Now, let's bring this back to you. If your dog behaves this way, it often reflects something powerful about how you show up in relationships. You create a deep sense of security for others, not just surface-level comfort, real emotional grounding, the kind where people feel safe being themselves, safe expressing things, safe existing without pressure. Your presence doesn't just fill space, it stabilizes it. People relax around you in a way they don't always understand. Conversations feel easier. Silence feels natural instead of awkward. There's a quiet sense of, I'm okay here. That's your strength. You don't need to control situations to make them feel safe. You don't need to say the perfect thing. Just being there consistently is enough to create that effect. And in a world where many people feel rushed, judged, or disconnected, that kind of presence stands out. You likely have close relationships where people rely on you not just for advice, but for emotional balance. When things feel overwhelming, they come to you, not because you'll fix everything, but because you make things feel manageable again. Your dog is showing that in the simplest way possible. I can only relax enough to eat when you're here. That's how strong your presence feels. But there's another layer to this dynamic. When someone begins to rely on your presence to function, even in small ways, it can slowly turn into something heavier than connection. Because now it's not just nice that you're there, it feels necessary. Your dog doesn't eat without you, and people, in their own ways, can start to mirror that kind of dependence, waiting for your input, your reassurance, your energy before they move forward. Not because they're incapable, but because your presence makes everything easier. And over time, that can become a quiet responsibility you didn't fully choose. You become the constant, the stabilizer, the one who needs to be there so things keep working. That's where it starts to weigh more. Because even though you're strong enough to support others, you're not meant to carry everything alone. Your ability to create safety is rare, but it becomes even more powerful when it allows others to stand on their own too, not just when you're Rhyodam, but even when you're not.
If you're not subscribed, you'll probably never see us again. But if you are, congratulations, you're growing every day.